Yes, this is DJ Ski.
I'm Jeff Wilson.
Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President of CGC Cards.
Hey, this is Jason Howard with Panini.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison.
Hey gang, this is Tom Verrilli. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Whatnot.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor.
This is Adam Rips with VFriends.
What's up? This is Aaron from Slab Stocks.
Hey, this is Clark from 5 Card Guys and the Cards to the Moon podcast.
Hey guys, this is Jay with Wild Card.
What's up everyone? This is Duke Dodson from Graybows.
What's up everybody? This is Chris Kelsey from Nash Cards.
What's up everyone? This is Mark Hill from My Card Post.
This is Ray Schulte.
This is Chase Krim.
This is Cody from Texas Roadshow Shop.
This is Mark Aaron from WSB Radio in Atlanta, and you're listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show.
I'm loving the content.
Loving the content here.
I'm loving the content here on the Sports Card Strategy Show.
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 And I'm telling you, the Sports Card Strategy Show.
This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good?
Be sure to subscribe for year-round advice on keeping your portfolio up to date.
Part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, the #1 place for advice on how to make money flipping sports cards. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, there is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
And there's no off-season.
You already know, there is no off-season.
No off-season!
All right, you ready to rock?
Ready to go.
When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own. Thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now. Cause after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Me and Lefty McKee. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show. I'm Paul Hickey. I got my main man, Kendall, the Lefty McKee. Family, we're here for you. We want to hear from you on today's show. We'll talk a little bit about our top sports card buys as we enter buying season. I've had our guy Jake in the lab looking at adding some Ohtani and Jordan and Caitlin Clark cards for me to the formula. So we'll go through some of that. And we've got like a PSA update that I want to clarify from a couple of episodes ago, because PSA, I was making a submission today and they've already changed the maximum declared value that I sort of went off on last week. So I wanted to clarify that. Like a lot of times when you have a software application, the development team will make changes on the fly. And so I noticed a new thing today when I was making a PSA submission. I've got stacks of Cooper Flagg cards on my desk that came in. The Bowman U Now #1. I'm sending off 70 of them to PSA. 40 of them are mine. And the others are from premium members of NoOffSeason.com. Lefty McKee, you want to talk about some interesting stuff today. Before I let you kind of tee that up, how you doing, man?
I want to know why you got your Cooper Flagg cards and mine are still processing.
What?
Mine are not out. Mine are not sent yet. What's the dealio?
You're kidding me. Top sent 3 different orders to me. 2 of them were from premium members of NoOffSeason.com who are basically just drop shipping me their cards to grade them. And then 1 was mine. So sorry to hear that.
I got 60 Cooper card flags up on hold right now.
They are holding up your flag plant, and that sucks, my man.
Yeah, what also sucks is they lost to Kansas last night.
Yeah, but I did see that.
Cooper continues to look like a 17-year-old in crunch time, but I'm okay with that right now. Honestly, that is not a dig at him. That is like he's there in crunch time and they're giving him the ball. And he's had some bad turnovers, but he's also done some things that you look at and you just can't look at saying like, wow, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah. And that's true. And I think, that stuff can play a role. It'll be interesting to see. I think what's happened with some of the younger players recently is people in the hobby who know sports like you do. and others in the fam here will break down the actual on playing surface performance when we really know in the hobby, like hype is the biggest thing that matters. At least with the guy, I think Flagg, I mean, you and I can have a debate on this if we want to. I would be on the side of these turnovers in the last few minutes of games. Like hobbyists don't care about that. They're going to see like a Cooper Flagg card and they're going to know this guy's the next thing. And they're going to want, I'm not saying there's not smart hobbyists who don't take that into account, but I'm saying that for the card values to be what they are, typically people aren't going to care if the dude dribbles the ball off his foot once or twice or whatever it is that he's doing. As long as he can dunk from the free throw line, or as Turner said, put his nuts in someone's face, which I really liked in our text string, then that's going to supersede it. So I didn't mean to interrupt your basketball analysis, because I definitely think that does play a factor, and you're right in your basketball analysis. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, a lot has changed in the hobby, so like these intricacies of the on-court performances in regular season games and stuff, maybe they end up making more of a difference than they ever have. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the men's basketball program there. I'm not worried at all about Cooper Flagg's status or anything like that, or his going into the season or any. I'm not worried about that. I think yesterday was a top matchup against an Elite Eight looking team. I mean, this was a really good basketball game, and they came up just short. And Cooper Flagg had 2 turnovers that looked pretty bad on him over the course of a game. Like, okay, LeBron has turnovers that look bad on him every once in a while. It's not a problem. I'm excited about my 60 cards coming in, and they are not deferring me from sending all 60 into PSA. Like, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to get these cards graded, and we're going to make good money on Cooper Flagg cards. You can fleece me with trying to figure out if Cooper Flagg is not going to be the number 1 pick or not. Forget that, bro. Like,
yeah, he's going to be the number 1 pick. The thing is, though, that like your basketball analysis, I think we're on the same page, but I do think that it could, with a Tops Now card, then they've already released another one. Yeah. So I'm not surprised, but if he puts up 30 and gets a big win against a ranked opponent, that could mean the difference in a PSA 10 between, say, $50 and $150. So I don't want to discount, like, I mean, it really could when he only has so much supply out. So if he goes off, I mean, let's say he just gets really hot and there looks to be no holes in his game, say, as we get closer to the tournament, that could mean that we 10, 20x our investment on these Tops Now plays. Whereas if he does put up 13 points and shoot 5 of 9 and turn the ball over a couple times against a ranked opponent, which isn't bad, and the Duke loses, then it might be a $40 to $60 card in a PSA 10 versus like $100 to $150 card. So it does make a big difference. I do want to clarify it, but I also think I don't see a world where we don't make money on these. Now, the difference is going to be, do we make $5 a card? Do we make $150 a card? I do think to a certain extent, Cooper Flagg's performance on the court will dictate that. So
yeah, I mean, and with expectations tempered, he's leading the team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and almost steals. So he's 0.1 away from leading the team in every category on a team that's number 11 in the country, and also has another chance to beat a ranked opponent this week when he plays Auburn. So all of these really close matchups early in the season are good for him long term, and I think it's him playing meaningful basketball right now is actually a bigger deal to me than him just scoring 30. I think him scoring 30 against William and Mary wouldn't be as significant as losing by 2 to Kansas when they trusted him with the rock in big points. So I'm excited. I'm still happy about it. And ultimately, if this card is a $60 card, then then we've 3x'd our investment. That's still fine, you know. And if I 3x an investment 60 times, I'm all right with that. You know?
I think if you're turning them around quickly when you get them, it should be a $60 card minimum, I think, in a PSA 10. So
yeah,
I'm
gonna turn about 25 of them loose as soon as I get them back, you know, and then I might hold back some of them for March and just see how that goes. But yeah, I'm not worried about it.
But you're gonna get them all graded right away. You're just saying you might hold back some graded ones for March, just to clarify for the audience. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of the audience, Chris Law, Chad Dyer, Arturo Torres, George Schurer, Papa Wax Picker, Jackson Brooks Papa, Bigger Slab Energy, Card Junkie #1. What's up, everybody? Not going to shout out everybody in the live chat on IG and youtube.com/Paul Hickey, but we'll try to shout you out as we go here. So Lefty, before we get into, some big topic you wanted to discuss, there's a few things I need to say. One is, are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. PC protection, great. Probably not the best for selling on the secondary market. Probably PSA is better, but CGC, PC protection, quick turn on some cards that you want to get to the market. Great. Also, remember, if you're a premium member at nooffseason.com, you can ask the grader. Our guy, Andy Broom, vice president of CGC Cards, answers your question on the premium pod after you get them in. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, Lefty, is before we get into, I think probably what's going to take up a lot of today's show, which should be fun, is while you haven't received your Cooper Flagg cards yet, you did receive, I think, the biggest hit of the nooffseason.com fam. When you look at you and I and Turner, Jake, and Joe, I think you got the biggest hit. So you had some success with a recent Topps Now package that you got back. Tell us about that.
Yeah, nothing's upsetting when, and I reiterated this on the Lefty Card Show this Monday. This is not why we do these plays. We are making plays like this for the potential for a $25 all-in card to be a $40 to $60 card over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's a massive win for us. But when we are doing the Topps Now plays, there's the potential for parallels and autos and all this kind of stuff that gets added in, not substituted for, that we talked about a couple weeks ago in regards to the premium pod. We talked about how there's some language differential there from a lawyer's perspective. And it's this I saw in firsthand when this was added in to my 40 card Jalen Daniels submission. It is a redemption auto. Congratulations. You are due to receive a Topps Now football autograph card of Jaden Daniels, Washington TN11, and it expires in 10 years, in case you're wondering. And I already have redeemed that. Plan on getting the auto coming in soon and getting that graded as well. And it'll be a Topps Now autograph of Jaden Daniels Hail Mary card that we like a lot, and it'll be an out of 49. So pretty cool point. It's just icing on top of the cake. This is not why we do these plays, but this is the added benefit of doing them through Topps Now. You know, Panini doesn't have this option. You have to buy the print, like the leopard print and the jungle editions and all that Blue Viper and stuff.
Blue Viper 1 of 1.
Which I don't like the look of personally, but the Topps versions of these cards have special little drops in them. For instance, the Cooper Flagg version that we just purchased has some potential for some crazy 1-of-1s with like a whole shoe in them. So pretty cool. Excited that my Jaden Daniels play is going to probably pay for all of my instant and Topps Now plays for the entire year, considering just the redemption of this card has already sold for like, I think $1,400 already. And so I can imagine a PSA 10 potential graded version of this card is going to be pretty nice. So
tell the people what you decided to do, because I know what you did, and they're probably wondering, like,
Oh yeah.
Do you redeem it, or do you sell the redemption? What did you decide to do?
Well, immediately, that's the complex is you're just like, frick, do I just get this out right away? Do I put it on auction? You're looking online to see what they're worth, and you're seeing crazy numbers roll across the screen. So ultimately, after talking to you and Turner and Chase Krim, I decided to redeem it. I decided that I didn't need the money right away. I didn't need the money within 7 days. So I have the time for Daniel's autograph to come in. And then when that comes in, I'm going to send it to PSA and get it graded, as long as it doesn't look like a butchered piece of ham. And we're going to see what the grade comes back as. And likely I'll have a pretty nice turnaround of an extra card that I didn't think I was going to get.
And I like that. And I think it depends on the scenario. I think it depends on the player, and it depends on the card. Yeah. And I think Jaden is the right player to redeem, because I don't see his market size going down. I see him being the quarterback out of this class that probably has the longest runway, just based on how he started. When you get out the gate, as well as Jaden Daniels got out the gate, it just gives you more margin for error, is what it does. And I think Caleb Williams has to earn some margin for error. I think probably every other quarterback does, especially like JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix, because due to injury and, having a other starter in front of them, those two guys haven't played yet. So I think like what's interesting is, also the Hail Mary card. I mean, that's going to be, everyone's going to remember that game, and everyone's going to remember that, Noah Brown catching that tipped pass in the end zone. And it was Jaden versus Caleb. And so, I think that's going to always be an iconic moment in the careers of those two young quarterbacks that are linked together from this year's draft. And so I think the combination of, I just don't want people going, well, I'm going to redeem everything now, because I heard Paul and Lefty talk about redeeming the redemptions. I think, look, when you got a $1,400 opportunity to just go ahead and get, and maybe it's not Jaden Daniels, or maybe it's a different Jaden Daniels card, I think you got to look twice. But I mean, if you're holding one of the other 48 cards that, Lefty talked about, I think it's a good card to redeem, because it probably has a very, very long runway. You should probably make more than $1,400 on it. So I think congratulations are in order for Mr. Lefty McKee. And yeah, for any of you celebrating a U.S. holiday tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving. I know many of you are outside the U.S., but we've got one of our U.S. holidays tomorrow. So everyone in the live chat saying Happy Turkey Day, Happy Turkey Eve. Absolutely. So Kendall, I said the words market size in one of my last couple sentences. Is that perhaps a good segue into what you wanted to talk about today? I know this is probably loaded in terms of, where you want to get to, but I know there's a lot on your mind. So take it away, man.
I think I want to cover one more question before we get to the market size, because I think that could dominate the rest of the pod. But I wanted to ask you a question that's in regards to what I have been trying to strategically plan over the last month or so. And I honestly, I've taken a conviction play on this, because some of the numbers don't exactly match up. Some of the stuff doesn't match up. But historically, when I look back, most of my conviction plays have played off. Now, some of them haven't. Dennis Schroeder didn't pan out, and some other things. But I think this one's a little more safe and a little more has some good things going against it. But I want to ask you a question about a soccer player. I know you're not in on a lot of soccer markets anymore, and you've been burned by them in the past. And so I really would love to hear your perspective on this. Talk to me about Christian Pulisic. What does his market look like from your point of view? Because I can kind of tell you where I'm at on it, but as a soccer investor and as a U.S. men's national team fan, I'm excited about his outlook, but I think I need you to talk to me about it for a minute. And I think it would be valuable for the pod to hear both of our perspectives. And I honestly have no idea where you're at on it.
Yeah. Cool, man. I mean, I think Pulisic I think if you're looking at a small niche of the hobby being not only soccer, but within that, like U.S. men's national team fans that are into soccer cards and want to collect in that market, I see Pulisic as being like the number one player to go after. I think I'm concerned about him for a few reasons. I think when you look at the world soccer market, he's not very desirable outside of the United States. And I would say that he's now, even though he's still young, he's still very, very young. And I believe he is the best player on the U.S. men's national team when you're looking at like investable soccer cards for that specific team. I think he's a niche within a niche within a niche. So like soccer is a niche, and then U.S. soccer is a niche within that niche. And then the U.S. men's national team is a niche within that. And he's the best player in that. So like, to me, he's a fade because I don't believe has a very big market. I think in 2021 and 2022, leading up to the 2022 World Cup, there was a lot of talk in the hobby for like all of 2021. There, like all the content creators in 2021 and 2022 were talking about leading up to the World Cup and, you know, the U.S. men's national team being, you know, a team that could qualify for the World Cup and actually do well. And they did, which was great. But there was so much talk around Christian Pulisic in, you know, I would say from probably March or April 2021 through March, April 2022, that like, as we actually got closer to the World Cup, it was almost like how prices dip after the NFL season starts. That's kind of what happened with Pulisic, is that as when we were only 6 months out from the World Cup, which was in December of 2022, his prices started to go down. And so, I mean, I just think it got to be a tricky, I think he became a conundrum around that time period. Not that you couldn't make money on him if you bought into him in that time and then flipped him and whatever, but it wasn't just like up and to the right all the way up to the World Cup and through it, like kind of everybody thought it was going to be. Yeah. And so this is my long-winded way of saying he's a total fade to me. Like, I'm very, very concerned about him because I see that, like, I'm big on historical pattern recognition more than I am like just actual numbers. And so like when I look at the pattern of when do you buy him, when do you sell him, I'm concerned with the fact that got disrupted a little bit the last time around, because while he did play well in the World Cup and while he was who we thought he was, he was who we thought he was, Dennis Green, that didn't necessarily make everybody a lot of money. And so I think this next time around, we're going to be dealing not only with that, but also with the fact that he's just like not the shiny new toy anymore. And he's also not messy. So like, if you're not the shiny new toy, like Yamal or somebody like that, and you're not messy, then who are you? And to me, he's just a guy who I think the world just sees him as a guy who plays on the U.S. men's national team. And I think his card market reflects that. Now, having said all that, I pulled a little bit of data, but I have not been in Christian Pulisic's cards at all until this conversation. So, I mean, that's my outsider's perspective on it, just based on my soccer experience over the last few years, I would be concerned that even though he is all those great things on the pitch, and he probably still will be into 2026 World Cup in North America. So I get the selling marker. My concern is that are there going to be enough people who actually want his cards to pay the amount of money needed for people to profit on him? And I'm not saying that that's not possible. I'm just saying I'm very, very concerned about that happening.
And that's fair. There's a lot of previous data to show that it was such a disappointment at the last World Cup that it's hard to regain the gumption to get back in on this. I'm just seeing some markers that I haven't seen from him in a long time. Like when he moved from Dortmund to Chelsea just tanked his value. I mean, he's one of a gazillion players on that Chelsea team. And then he just couldn't get consistent starts and all that kind of stuff. But with AC Milan, he is their best player in a lot of ways. Transfer-wise, he's ranked third on that team, and he's got 12 goals in the Champions League, and so he's got more goals than Eden Hazard had in his entire career in the Champions League. And so I think he's just doing some things where he's kind of putting the world on notice, again, of like reminding him he's only 26 years old. The 2026 World Cup is in his home country. Pochettino is now the coach, which is a world-class coach, and they have done some things differently underneath him that have been pretty eye-opening. And I think, and I'm okay being an early adopter to a new wave of United States men's national team investors, if that's the case. I'm okay being an early adopter to that because I have a conviction play here, and what you've said has been good for me to like balance where I'm at with it, especially from our listener base. But I'm still convinced that he will be worth investing in because, and this kind of does roll into the argument that we're going to have later. The market cap on some of his cards is so much lower than any other sport. I mean, it is like a fraction of the cost of some of the other, like the money that's in his cards specifically is a fraction of where it is in other places. So I know it's a niche within a niche within a niche. But we've made money there before. So I'm kind of pulling a conviction play on him. I'm marginally investing in some of his cards from a raw to grade standpoint. I'm buying his on-card autos instead of his sticker autos. I'm trying to make some, rather like smarter purchases within his market than, buying super short print cards, things like that, that if his market does pop off, like I believe it will, it'll be something that I can profit from, and like trying to make the smartest moves I can in a very risky scenario. And I know like this is one of those scenarios that you have to be extremely convinced to outweigh the risk, or outweigh the risk. And for me, I'm currently there. I'm currently like, I'm willing to wade out in this water knowing it's extremely risky and full of sharks. But I just believe that it's going to happen. I believe soccer is going to be a sport worth investing in the future, and I'd rather be on the front end of that. So, yeah, I think it's good for me to hear where you're at with it. It's good for me to hear all that. I think it's extremely good for our market to know that it's you are where you're at and I'm at where I'm at, and it's okay for us to disagree, but it's a conviction play and not based off numbers for me. So
yeah, and I mean, here's some data to back up where I'm at. And like what I just did is I just pulled up marketmoversapp.com. If you can use the promo code no off season if you want to go premium and save 20% for life. That's another tool that I use. It's only one tool, but it's my go-to tool for just kind of doing initial research when we have conversations like this. So like player Christian Pulisic, graded only, and then last 365 days, number of sales. So this tells me if I want to look at how liquid is a player, which I define that as how easy is it going to be for me to sell his card?
Mhm.
Like, so this represents, I believe it represents the amount of eBay searches that people would have at some level, because it's better than that. It's a number of sales. So number of sales, and this includes obviously more than just eBay sales, but 37 sales in 365 days of his top most sold graded card. To me, Lefty, that is putrid. Like, I would never want to buy into a player knowing that in the last 365 days, the most that his top graded card has sold is 37 times. I am just not that guy. I'm just not that patient. Like, I don't want to sit there. What this means to me is that I might have to wait months and months and months and months to sell one card that's a 2016 Donruss debut PSA 10, and it's a pop 623, and it's a $94 card. So you might be able to, now it's down 22%, so we could drill into this card and we could be like, all right, well, Paul, like, let's see. Okay. And I know this is only one card, but just, I'll have some more stuff here. You could go all data and you could be like, all right, well, look, let's look at what happened after the World Cup. So after the World Cup, you could get this card for around, it's low after the World Cup. It took till March to get kind of back down again. $88. Well, now, it's sold 155. After, a year after that, basically it was at 155. It sold for 168. It sold for 150. You can make money on this card for sure. It is just a long ass hold, right? So and oh, by the way, now would be a good time to buy this card. It's, 623. That's pretty high pop for Pulisic. That's not necessarily totally low pop, but it's not it's not Victor Wembanyama, who already has 24,000 Prism PSA 10 base. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it's just not where you're at.
And I kind of don't want it to necessarily be a recommendation for the audience unless they know that they're going to have to really, really wait on this to sell it. I know our premium subscriber base pretty well, and most people want to make money in 3 months or less on plays that we give them.
Yeah,
and this is a years of holding Christian Pulisic cards before you get to the point where you're like, okay, I definitely can make a profit on this. And I mean, I know you can speak to this, you can speak to loving soccer, loving a card, but also being like, man, I've heard you talk about some of your plays, and I'm not saying they're L's, but I know sometimes to you they felt like L's because you'll be in a situation and you're like, man, I wish I could move out of these cards to get into these other things, but I and I could, but I'd be under. But I know if I hold them for another year or within the next year, there's you have good soccer conviction. So I'm not going to debate you on. I think you're probably right about your conviction play with Pulisic, but I don't. What I'm saying. I'm saying this for the audience.
I do. Yeah,
I'm saying this for the audience. Talk about some of the times where you're like, man, I wish I didn't have these Messi or Pulisic or, even Gakarez or Yamal. I mean, you've done well on all these guys, but I mean, I think just give the audience a little disclaimer here, because where I'm going with it.
Yeah, Messi was just the last World Cup was a disappointment, honestly, for a lot of my soccer cards. I thought we would see a rise in everything to the point where we could get out in 3 to 4 months. And I think we bought in too late. I think we as in me and whoever else followed me, I think we bought in a little too late, where the margin between when we bought and the World Cup was too slim. And then when we were ready to let go, we didn't let go in time. And so there was a couple of mistakes that we did not that we either broke even or walked away with an L on this. And it was not what I wanted it to be at all. And so there have been situations in the card market where with Messi and things, I made some investments that I thought would pop off, and they just didn't. And there's been a lot of like, why isn't this working for me? And it probably has to do with an international buyer pool that doesn't watch the sport. If I'm, when you walk around the national, you can tell who the buyer pool is. It's hello middle-aged men, and how many of them are marginally watching on Sunday afternoon between naps. They're watching football, and if you walk around, they're like, okay, even their football takes are 6 months behind, so their soccer takes are going to be at 25 years behind, and so we're just not at a place where they are as liquid as I want them to be.
And this is a good question. This question scares the crap out of me. This is like, Lefty knows me really, really well now. Like we've been doing this for years. We're like really good friends. So Lefty understands like the difference between like having a conversation about it to create really compelling content, and also like the slippery slope of it becoming a recommendation for the audience. So like, so Andrew McDade asks, and I believe Andrew is a premium member at nooffseason.com as well. And by the way, there's a big difference, I think, between the Sports Card Strategy Show and nooffseason.com. The way that I like, what I mean is like, the Sports Card Strategy Show is like when an artist, like, let's say we're painters. I'm a horrible like artist and painter, but let's say we're painters. I think everyone can
painting Manning.
And understand. Yeah, we're painting Manning. We're painting Manning. That's a good one. So we've got our canvas out and we want to start painting. But I think part of the process before you paint is you like maybe look at a photo and sketch out with a pencil on the canvas first, right? I think that's what the Sports Card Strategy Show is.
Mm-hmm.
The Sports Card Strategy Show is like, we think these things are going to lead us down the path of making money flipping sports cards. So we're going to talk about them. I think nooffseason.com is like, we finished this masterpiece painting, and we want, and we're revealing the masterpiece painting, and we want you to focus on all these masterpiece paintings that we finished and not necessarily go back up to like the sketch, because we already finished the painting like for you and you can do it. And so I think these kinds of conversations are going to be great. And I think we're going to have a lot of them in 2025. Like we've already talked with Turner and Joe and Jake about 2025 and the content plan. And this is like a little preview of what 2025 is going to be like. There's going to be like some debates on the Sports Card Strategy Show, like fun, different points of view. Great. Andrew McDade asks, what would be your time frame for starting to buy to stock up inventory for the World Cup? This makes me poop my pants with fear. I don't want anyone stocking up inventory for the World Cup. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Right? I mean, Lefty, you know where I'm coming from with this, right? Like this is like, maybe you're the guy that should explain this more than I should.
Well, so what I'm
up inventory is a dangerous phraseology, and I'm not like, I mean, Andrew might be like, hey, I just want to buy one or two Pulisic cards as a flyer to go along with Lefty. That's different than stocking up inventory.
Yeah, I think stocking up inventory for something a year and a half away is dangerous, whether it's the World Cup or not. I mean, for us, the World Cup happens once every 4 years, so it's a little bit different than a Super Bowl or something like that. But Are you stocking up for the World Series next year at this point? No, you're not.
Great point.
You're not stocking up for the 2025 World Series right now.
If you're even stocking up for the Super Bowl, you're stupid because you don't know who's going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, like I will give the caveat that the World Cup is a little bit different than another competition. That's fair. It's got the most eyeballs on it in the world, and there is some card markets, and maybe in 12, 15 years, card market is reflective of that. But right now, the general buyer base of the people that are watching the World Cup is not the same. And so this is completely what Paul is saying is this is not a recommendation for what's going to be a 3-month flip from now. Could I get lucky and sell some Pulisic cards in 3 months? Or okay, fine. That's not what I'm even talking about. What I'm saying is there's a discussion base and there are debates that me and Paul talk about when we are just texting or if we're in a hotel room or all that kind of stuff. And it's valuable content for us to build our water level as card professionals. And you are entering into this kind of a conversation. When we took a subway from Philly from Atlantic City to Philly, we were like, dang, we should have recorded that whole talk because it was just good stuff. And that we were challenging each other. We were bringing up new perspectives and all this kind of stuff. And I generally think that's where I'm at with this discussion. But this is not a by Christian Pulisic podcast. It's just, for me, I'm wanting to ask a good friend of mine, i.e. Paul Hickey, where am I potentially missing stuff? And he said incredible stuff that challenged me. He said, like, yeah, there's 30 of these cards that have sold in the 365 days. That's a humbling thing for me to hear. You know, because, like, I'm probably 15 of those. I'm just kidding. I'm not 15 of those. But what I'm saying is it's just not there. And I can't make it be there. I think early on in our card investment lives with each other, a lot of people used to say, well, that card's undervalued or that card, Well, actually, the value is what the value is because for whatever reason, we talked about a lot why designated hitters don't have the same value that everyone else has. Why does Jordan have half the market that Altuve has and Altuve have half the market than Bobby Witt Jr.? Well, I don't really know, but it's just saying it's undervalued is silly now because it's been 5 years and Jordan is still the bottom of the list in the comparison of those guys.
Yeah. And Lefty, like, we know, you and I know, I'm not trying to pick on you or Andrew McDade.
No.
But my actual answer is I'm not going to buy any cards for the World Cup because it didn't work for me last time, and I don't believe it's going to work. So, Andrew, appreciate that you came back and said I used the wrong term, just looking to make play. Like, Andrew's just basically looking for some advice on, like, when would be the time to buy World Cup plays for the 2026 World Cup. And, I mean, look,
probably 3 months before.
When we're in 2026, maybe I'll be in a different mindset in terms of my investing. And I agree with Lefty, what Lefty just said, like 2 or 3 months before, because you just don't want to be holding cards that long. None of you guys do. You don't listen to the Sports Card Strategy Show for that. Like, you just don't. And you guys, premium members of nooffseason.com, like, I know you don't want to hold cards very long. You come ask Lefty and I every week on the premium pod how like when you can sell stuff. And that's great. That's what we want you doing. So I think, like, this is a great discussion. And I think it's just, it's important to look at, trying to not hold, not like put yourself out of other plays because you're holding other cards. And what might look to be a great buy right now doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to sell it. Lefty and I have been punched in the gut a lot in, like, the last 4 or 5 years. And this is where this comes from. So it doesn't come from me thinking anyone's lesser than or stupid or whatever. It's just, I just
not trying to get
wouldn't
you punched in the gut.
buy. Yeah, exactly. I just wouldn't buy anything World Cup related until maybe a couple months before the World Cup. And even then it would have to be like, again, the right card for the right player at the right time, which includes the right price. So, I mean, would I do a little bit of shopping and like looking maybe, but yeah. So anyway, good stuff. Anything else on, I mean, I don't want to, like, we don't need to end that topic.
No, I think, well, it does go into my larger conversation about market cap. And that's where I really wanted to go to today is I've been thinking, and I'm trying to look at my investment strategy over the long term. And I have a history of investing in other things like cryptos, NFTs, and all that. And I got out of that because I didn't understand it as much as I understand sports cards, which is laughable. Because even the more that we do this, the more I realize maybe I don't even know this as much as I want to know this. And I think it's always presenting more data, presenting more, and we're the data guys. That's what we do. And so, but one thing I took from the other, you pick up tools along the way and things like that. Overall market cap was a big thing in the crypto market. Like when we're talking about investing in a coin or something, you have to look at the price per coin versus how many coins are in circulation and things like that. So I was driving a lot this weekend, and I started to think about the gauntlet that me and Turner did on Monday. The first two matchups were a PSA 10 Anthony Edwards Prism Silver versus a Wemby 10 Prism Silver. And first off, just right off the cuff and off the hip, which one of those are you picking?
Well, I mean, in relation to market cap, which is like, I think a very,
well, I'll get to that in a second.
Discussion.
But like just Wemby and Ant, one's $712, one's $850. Which one are you buying? Well, you can only buy one of them.
This is a good question though, Lefty. I mean, because I just processed that information in the last few seconds, and I came to the same answer that I came to before I picked my 5, which is Wemby. So really, I already made that decision, right?
Okay.
And luckily today, Paul agrees with like a month ago, Paul. So that's good news.
And agrees with Lefty on Monday's episode. I said a $712 Wembanyama seems like a floor level investment for a card that could be $1,500 very easily, with Ant being maybe a $1,500 investment, but he's also playing well right now. And he's playing on a team that's doing okay, and his cards are still going down, and so it's like, okay, where are we at, and so I felt more confident in the Wemby. So I started crunching numbers because I was concerned about the astronomical pop counts of the silvers in regards to Wembanyama. And so the Wembanyama silver comes in with a 3,942 pop count of his silver prism, which is, and a friend of mine said, I think that is what's bringing down the price of the Prism Silver more than him being, like the basketball market, quote unquote, cooling off for Wembanyama. And I said, okay, I can get behind that. So in reflection, if you do, there's 3,942 of these Prism Silvers out there. And if the current price is $712, that means that the investment of the market cap is almost $3 million. It's at $2.8 million invested in this one card. Ants is, if you look at it, there's 2,015 of them, so around half of as many. They're at $859, but his market cap in that specific card is still at 1.7. So you've got $1 million more in Wemby silvers than you do in Ant silvers. And I'm wondering, I know that there are resistance levels in investing where like it is natural human tendency to say, I think this is overweighted or underweighted. And like people will move based on how they feel a card is weighted or underweighted. It's called Fibonacci. There's a lot of math behind it. Don't want to go into all that right now. But what I am saying is, can we use numbers like this use the pop count and money in specific cards to potentially see as well where cards are under and overvalued as well? And so I started putting some of that together. Do you think there's weight there just in general before I even start talking about other examples of cards?
Yes and no. I think the yes is when you have new cards getting graded. So a new release hits the market and everybody starts grading cards from that new release. That's where I guess it's market cap for everybody who doesn't know. All it really is the price of the card times how many cards there are of that card. That's all it is.
It's how much money is essentially in that specific asset.
Yeah, so now that's the no. I don't think that holds any weight at all. Okay. Like that is a number that I believe we should all just ignore. I've completely ignored that number for the last 4 years. I mean, market cap to me, cause how do I know? Look, okay, market cap would be a number that I think we should all pay attention to. If I had any real data telling me how many people are entering into the card market every day, spending X amount of money on sports cards, and then breaking that number down by sport and by player, because then I would have a number and I would be like, oh, I will now estimate the amount of money that people will spend on Victor Wembanyama sports cards over the next year. If I had that number, then market cap would help me, because then I could go in and I could be like, well, now 2.8 million is the market cap on Victor Wembanyama 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10 right now. And that's actually the real number, because it's $712 times 39.42. That's the pop count in PSA 10.
Mm-hmm.
So for PSA 10, that's the market cap, 2.8 million, according to Market Movers right now. Market Movers calculates the market cap. You can't calculate a market cap on a raw card because you don't know how many there are unless it's serial numbered or this published short print. To have a market cap, you have to know how many there are. That's why typically you'll see PSA 9, PSA 10 market caps. To me, that means nothing, because I don't know how many people there are and how much they're willing to spend on Victor Wembanyama cards in general. If I had that number, then we could just simply look at all the Victor Wembanyama market caps and be like, okay, well, where do we think there's the most room? But even then, we'd kind of be doing the same thing we're doing now, which is just simply looking at, like, the reason I built the formula is because I believe that's a better number to look at than the market cap. Because the formula, we just need a way to compare cards against each other.
Yeah.
And that's what the formula does, which I think I think the market cap number is meaningless, really, unless you really believe, which, I mean, look, I could be a complete idiot. Maybe people will call me an idiot after saying this. The whole Fibonacci thing means nothing to me. I don't think that holds any weight at all, especially in sports card investing, because I think it's applied to other markets and it doesn't make sense even in those markets to me, but it definitely doesn't make sense in the sports card market, because in the sports card market, there are different factors. There's raw to grade. There's supply and demand based on player performance spikes. It's more about timing and buying the right card for the right player at the right time. And in a lot of cases, being skilled at pre-grading yourself before you buy it, being skilled at being disciplined enough to not overpay for a card, so to be unemotional about it. And these are all the things that we talk about pretty consistently at nooffseason.com and at the Sports Card Strategy Show. To me, the market cap is like, what would be better? I've already said it's useless, but what would be better than the market cap is if we had a sliding scale to tell us, okay, there are likely X amount of Victor Wembanyama Prism Silvers that were printed. And based on the Gem Rates report, because Gem Rate will report more than the Gem Rate. GemRate.com reports like how many cards PSA has graded, and then there'll be like Gem Rate and Sports Card Investor will publish reports on like most graded players and all that stuff. All that is actually available, I believe, through like PSA's API and everything like that. So in theory, like we could build a tool and we could be like, we're going to tell you the likelihood of when the best time to buy into Victor Wembanyama's Prism Silver PSA 10 would be, not based on like what's happening in the market based on player performance, but what I'm trying to say is there's nothing that tells us why the price is going down based on more hitting the market. We look at it and we see that's probably what's happening. And we've said that with CJ Stroud rookie cards and everything like that since Topps Composite and all that. But the reason why you could make an argument with Anthony Edwards over Victor Wembanyama is because you could say, well, Anthony Edwards is from 2020. His Prism Silvers from 2020. Thus, there's 3 years have gone by, making it 3 years less likely to see an increase in pop count, right? Like you could look at a pop count chart and it's like plateaued for Anthony Edwards, whereas it's up and to the right for Victor Wembanyama. So what I'm trying to get at is we could build a tool where it's like, when is it going to plateau? When has it plateaued?
Yeah.
And we could cross-reference that with the actual player performance, which we look at all the time. And then we could be like, okay, now is the point when we should buy Victor Wembanyama's 2023 Prism Silver in a PSA 10 and stop doing the raw to grade and just look at it in a PSA 10. I have not bought a Victor Wembanyama Prism Silver PSA 10 because I don't have that tool yet to tell me maybe this ends up being a $550 card first. Then I believe it's going to go up to be a $1,500 card. I just don't know when. If the tool told me ding, 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 like it's plateaued now, I'd go out and buy it right now.
Sure.
And so I've gotten off into a little bit of a different tangent than market cap, but to me, that would be like more of what we're searching for as an answer to when to buy a card than the market cap. But Lefty, like, am I missing something? Because when I look up the definition of market cap, and you've done other investing more than I have outside of sports cards, when I look at the market cap, it just tells me basically it's a tool to compare companies. Like, to me, this is a phrase that was used in buying stocks in companies, and now we've applied it to sports cards, and I don't think it has a place in sports cards. I would argue it doesn't even really have a place in buying stocks in companies, but I don't understand it at that level. I could see where, like, if someone has a gut feeling on a company, maybe that's a good tool, but I don't like gut feeling. So maybe that's why I've steered away from market cap.
I think it's just a number that tells you how much economic power, how much money, or how many people have voted towards the price of that thing being at that evaluation. And it kind of goes back to, you've seen Shark Tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when they say, hey, I'm looking for an investment of 10% at $100,000 or something like that, then they're saying, then they're evaluating their company at $1 million franchise because it's 10% at 100,000. Therefore, they're saying we're going to gross more than $1 million over the next couple of years, and that's why it'd be a good investment for you to buy 10% at 100,000 because it's going to go up from here.
Right.
So
but not, sorry to cut you off, but not only have I seen Shark Tank, but I've gone through in my own companies in the past, being someone who's had to put together numbers to take to an investor. And not only on Shark Tank do the investors, but also in real life, the investors say, yeah, but the number you've given me is like basically a completely made up number. The number that the investor cares about is, what are your sales?
Yeah.
because what your sales are and what your overhead costs are, now you take that number, and then now the investor will value your company based on how long will it take me to get my money back.
Yeah.
And how long will, like, when will I make money off of your company? Right.
Yes.
So sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to clarify that for the audience, because I think that one side is like making up what something's worth. And I think market cap, it's a real number, but all it really is like, it's what a particular share of stock sells for times how many shares of stock there are. So like what we don't know is how many more shares of stock are there going to be.
Yeah, I think that's the part about this. Through this whole discussion, like me thinking in this direction has getting me just basically thinking, is there a number that we can potentially add to our process of the formula and all this kind of stuff that just makes us more granular and makes us better at what we're doing? And so this is me mentally exploring an aspect that I have explored in other markets. And what I really love that has come out of this is what you have stated about the plateau of pop counts, because that's when this really matters. And I think that's what really got me going on the Wemby pop counts, because when I'm looking at, okay, the Wemby pop counts when I first started looking at this card were like 1,700. Now they're at 3,900. So that's $4,000 or 4,000 cards rather than almost 2 is a completely different number, which is why the you could argue why a $1,400 card added double of those is now to 700 because of supply and demand and all that kind of stuff. But I think when a pop count is plateauing, you can assume that the price of the card is going up or down based on performance and based on markets that we do know how to evaluate and control. And so I really like that part of this discussion. Some of the other cards that I just got curious on based on market cap to see where other big cards were is I did like mantles and stuff, which are pretty plateaued already because they've been since 1952. And those are at a PSA 1 of that is at 10 million and a PSA 5 is at almost 20 million. So it doesn't shock me that there's a 2 million evaluation on a Wemby. And Wemby is right up there around the same market cap value of Shohei Ohtani in a lot of his cards too. So I think maybe what I am missing and what I can say is I'm missing other numbers. This even if
because I wanted to just ask you, because I agree with everything you're saying in terms of where you started thinking about this conversation makes sense. And I think there's like an intersection where we're like saying the same thing, like on one of the intersections of this, we're totally aligned on what would be helpful. I think what I'm wondering is when you are looking at the market cap and you're looking at the price of a particular card, how are you seeing the actual market cap and it's literally the price of one of the cards as being different data? So
I don't think I understand what you're asking.
Like, to me, like Wemby's, when we look at when we go back and look at the historical data of, say, Wemby's Prism base PSA 10, and we can look at the chart of that card and how when it first hit the market, PSA 10, and it actually happened with his Topps Chrome. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, it's literally every single, with his Topps Chrome base, when that hit the market, the same thing happened. Like, basically each of those cards were selling for like upwards of $50 raw, upwards of $250 in a PSA 10. And then like a month later, when there was 100 more of them than there were, they came down to like $200 or, maybe $200, or like I was going to say 150 or 111. I mean, it keeps going down and down and down. And now Wemby's Topps Chrome base and his Prism base are basically like $80 to $90 cards, right around like 80 to, right in that pocket, depending on, maybe one sells for 100 and one sells for 89, but it's generally most of them are selling for 95, kind of a thing. So I guess to me, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't know that, like, looking at the big number of market cap versus the actual number of the card selling, the sales price of the card gives me any better actionable insights to take off of the data. Like, to me, they could be, you could look at one and you could look at the other and they would be the same thing. Cause it's literally just like, how many of them are there, is the only difference in those two numbers, which is why I think it's simpler to just understand and look at what did it last sell for and what's the historical sales data for that card. When you talk about Christian Pulisic earlier, which I don't mean to like muddle the two discussions together, but I think where you can look at a market cap number just to sort of validate the size of a market, maybe that's another indicator. Like, maybe you could look at the market cap of one sport versus another sport, and it could give you an indicator. But even then, I find it hard because when you do that, it's really, really hard to compare. I mean, I guess we could go back to Kawhi Leonard if we wanted to try to compare it to Lionel Messi, like 2014 rookie. But I mean, it's just really, really hard. So the theme of this discussion for me is like, yes, I look at a lot of data, but I only actually think that a couple data points are really valuable. Like, I think there's so much data around us that confuses people. And I came from a world of like using data to drive like web design and usability and digital marketing and everything like that. And now I use data to drive these sports card investment decisions. But even in my old world, like, people would be like, hey, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, cool, I've looked at that, but I've tried to get actionable insights from this, and I can't get anything. So I guess maybe a better way of asking you the question that I asked you earlier is like, when you go down the path of looking at data, do you ever see where you're like, okay, I see an actionable insight here, but over here I see a number, and I think I get what the number is, but I don't know what to do with the number.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
that I think,
and that's why I kind of fade market cap.
At the end of this discussion, I think I'm almost getting too cute with it. You know, like, I'm just like, I'm thinking and I'm exploring and all this kind of stuff, and which is always helping us progress our strategy forward. But at the end of the day, for instance, one of my examples on why I don't think I have all the answers here. Like, I think this is just, even if this is part of some equation in the future, this is only a piece of how it will be beneficial. Because, and here's one of my main arguments. There is the Paul Skeens Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10, according to market cap and according to market movers, is at 767,000. So, almost, 250,000 away from $1 million, $750,000. The Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10 of Bobby Witt Jr., who we're way more excited about, is at almost 300,000. So that's totally different than an almost $3 million market cap of a Wemby pop counted PSA silver. So like, I'm at the point where I think I'm just getting too cute with this.
Yeah, but I say those two cards again one more time. Sorry.
The Bowman Chrome Autos.
You said Skeens. You're talking about
Skeens Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10, and then Bobby Witt Jr.'s Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10. Just the base versions of their PSA 10 autos.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, like, I think you are getting too cute with it because, and that was like kind of my gut feeling initially is because, and I think the reason why is because you're looking at whenever you look at two separate cards and you look at their you look at the market cap number, you're really just looking at, again, how many there are times the current, like the card price, like the average sale price of that card in the last 7 days. So like, to me, that tells me, always has and always will tell me nothing, like nothing helpful. There's no actionable insight from the market cap number. I'll tell you one thing though, Lefty, like little left turn here. I mean, one thing that would tell me something is if I had this fucker right here. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Back to the Future franchise movies, there's a character named Biff. And Biff basically stole He went to the future in one of the movies. He stole a sports almanac, brought it back with him into the past, and then made a ton of money on sports betting because he had the future's sports almanac. So I'm obviously making a joke here, Kendall. We'll get back to some serious stuff. But, I mean, I've always wanted Biff's almanac.
Oh, of course, yeah. If we had Biff's almanac, we would know, we would have known ages ago that we should have spent every dollar we had on Caitlin Clark $4 draft night cards,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But then we
I would have sold all my Anthony Richardson cards back in August.
Yeah, and I would have never invested in F1 cards. So, it is what it is.
I never would have bought Gio Reyna autos or the Caden Clark, the C Clark before the actual superstar
Caitlin,
C
yeah.
Clark. I picked the wrong C Clark. I picked Caden Clark.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion, but I think you're right. It comes down to a number that is irrelevant and is a number that, while cute to look at, shouldn't be a discussion on when we should and shouldn't invest, at least at this point, because we don't know what the general pop count is of said card in general. So it's incomplete even in what I've brought forward. It's only the PSA 10s, and there's not a finite number of those either. So just stick to what we're doing at the formula, at least right now.
The formula is a version of what when we had that little intersection where we were talking about, like, wouldn't it be nice if we had this chart that told us when a particular PSA 10 pop count was going to kind of plateau.
Mm-hmm.
And the formula, we've adjusted the formula since we built it back in March to essentially account for some of that with the new release coming out. But yeah, to me, the formula, I mean, of course, everyone knows I'm going to say this. The formula is better than any metric out there because, again, like when we look at market movers and we look at sales data and all this data that we've talked about on this show, we're taking all of that data and we're putting it into the formula. And the formula, to me, it's more of a recommendations engine than anything else out there that exists. Everything else out there that exists is just giving you numbers. It's like, this card's worth this. There's this many of it. Thus, and it's like, here's what it's sold for in the past on these dates. Nothing goes into the future other than the formula. The formula goes into the future as a recommendations engine. No other data that exists in the sports card market does that. It just looks at past sales data. So how does the formula do that? The formula goes into the past, pulls data, and then cross-references it with what the actual sales price would be for a graded card. So that's the raw to grade. And that's real math. Like, we don't need to predict anything at all. Like, there's no predictions to do a recommendations engine in that case. It's just simply, we know that if you buy this card for this price, which is the target cost, and you get a PSA 8, 9, 10, whatever, our math in our spreadsheet that powers the formula gives you the real projected average sale price based on what grade you're likely to get. And then we subtract your marketplace fees, the taxes that you paid on the front end, the shipping and all that. When I say marketplace fees, by the way, I'm talking about any marketplace, eBay, not Facebook Marketplace. I'm not talking about Facebook Marketplace. I'm talking about eBay, MySlabs, Facebook Marketplace, PWCC, which is now Fanatics Collect, all the different sports card marketplaces. And then, of course, you can avoid some marketplaces by going and doing like social media sales on your own. But even then, you're going to be paying, hopefully, PayPal goods and services and things like that. The buyer is. So anyway, projected ROI is the key number that ranks the cards against one another. Now, the already graded tab, well, let's go to the graded to raw. So the graded to raw tab real quick, that's actually just like the raw to grade, except instead of grading it, you're going to take it from being a graded card. You're going to make it a raw card by cracking it out of its slab. And those are instantaneous values, like just like the raw to grade, the instantaneous value on the graded to raw, where you're going to buy a card that's already in a slab for what it sells for. And then what it sells for raw happens to be higher. And that's how we rank the projected ROI on the graded to raw. The already graded is where it's a little bit trickier to come up with something that's going to work, where we have to use past data and likelihood of how we feel about that particular player to give you a projected average sale price and the ROI. Now, back to the raw to grade real quick, because wouldn't it be nice if we had this number that plateaued off and like made market cap make sense and all that stuff for actually having an actionable insight? The way that we've done that with the raw to grade is we've just simply modified cards that are new to the market, because we know we learned the hard way early on that if we throw a PSA 10 output on a card that just hit the market based on its first few comps, we know that by the time people get that card back from PSA based on our recommendation, it's going to be like a third of that price. So we've modified that within the formula. So I often think, well, what if we built this? What if we built that? And I kind of always keep coming back to, how would that help people make a decision better than the formula? And I haven't come up with an answer. So even on this plateauing of the pop count thing, I'm still like, but how would people make a decision? Like, I think the formula helps people make a decision better. And if we just make a little modification to the math and the formula based on some of these factors, like, okay, Victor Wembanyama's pop count's going to continue to grow or whatever versus Anthony Edwards, is all we have to do is modify a simple input into the formula, and it accounts. Now it gives a better recommendation, actionable insight based on that. So, man, that's a lot of words from both of us today.
Yeah, that's all I'm suggesting, by the way. Anyway, I'm not suggesting something better or newer. I'm just saying, like, maybe there's an extra input we can add. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. What would be cool is, looking at fine-tuning, getting people the cards, right? Like getting people, like, so right now it's like all the numbers are great and they make sense at nooffseason.com. How can we help get people, like, the number one card right now is try to find a Victor Wembanyama 2023 Prism Purple Ice 136 for $810. That's gradable. That looks like it's going to gem. Right? Not easy to do. You're going to make close to 300% ROI if you can do it. So we're going to put that out there for you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to find it.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So, like, I'm going to look for, this kind of goes to real quick what I wanted to talk about today real quick. I'll just do it within this conversation, is like Michael Jordan 1989 Fleer 21. We all know he's one of my 5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Target cost $14, but how do I find? So if I can find even one that's going to get me a mint 9, I'll make money on it. Let alone if I can find one that's going to get me a 10, I can make, if I buy multiples of that, I should make 123% ROI, but I have to go out and do the work and actually find the card that's not going to be trimmed. That's not going to be, not going to have some, it's going to look great, except for there's going to be a surface flaw, all this stuff. So I think, like, the missing link to me is less about more data, and it's more about how do we maybe it's getting into eBay in a more efficient way to find listings. eBay is notoriously crappy at how they essentially show their search results based on your search. You get a bunch of crap. So we kind of did a little eBay modification thing in the premium pod last week, where you said that was some coding stuff right there.
Yeah, that's nice.
That kind of thing. Michael Jordan 1991 Upper Deck SP1 base, $16 card. Formula shows an 84% ROI. I've bought that card a lot raw. I've graded that card. I've broken even and lost more than I've made because it's from 1991. so like, so it's just, there's no easy way to do this, right? It's just giving people the tools to try to do it. And I love having the conversation with you, man. We've got people like Kyle T in the chat that's just throwing a bunch of stuff out about like what data to use, and that's cool. I mean, that's cool.
Maybe we can find some tech numbers savant at some point that makes this foolproof. But right now it's just me and you, and we're here doing this. So let's get it.
Pika Puck Card says, I love the show, guys. Within the last 3 months, I've doubled my money inventory and hockey cards since listening to your pod. Even though hockey isn't a big topic on here, lessons are applicable. Pika Puck Cards.
Pika Puck.
We need a testimonial from you. I mean, that's a testimonial right there. I'm going to send that to Joe.
Pika Puck. Is that Pikachu and Puck for hockey?
Maybe.
Interesting.
It just says Pika Puck. Like they're
Can you just say it really quick?
Pika Puck.
maybe with a Pikachu accent.
I don't know what Pikachu sounds like.
That's a lie.
I don't. I have no idea. Don't you remember? I think you and I were like at the National, and I couldn't even remember that it was called Pikachu. You remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
Okay.
I was like, what's that Pokemon? You're like, oh, I don't even know. I was like, what? How old are you?
Good to see Signs of the Times vintage collectibles.
Best Uber driver in the world.
Tim Larson, shout out. Okay, Lefty, one more thing I wanted to say on today's show, and we're going to get into a lot on the premium pod this week. I'm excited. Is a couple shows ago, I went off on PSA and other content creators who didn't understand what PSA had actually done. I made a comment on a post on Instagram about it. I talked about it on the Sports Card Strategy Show. I was like, look, it's not a good thing that what PSA did with this max declared value. Well, I went to go in to do my submission today, and they basically fixed it. So basically what they've done is
they heard you.
I guess, I don't know. They put in a default max declared value for the service level that you're putting in. So you don't, it used to be that you had to put it in like a text field, like a number input field, a text field for a number, right? An integer, if you will.
Ooh,
and so
nice.
if you didn't do that, it gave you a little like, oh, wait, before you move on to the next thing, you got to required field message that we all know. So then what they did was they said, we're going to take away the required field and they're just going to give you the max declared value. Well, that sucked because we talked about how that meant that we all have to pay more insured shipping. Well, now what they've done is they've defaulted to the max insured value. They've renamed it from max declared value to max insured value, which now makes way more sense. So now it's max insured value. They default to the service level, but they allow you to change it by checking the optional customized max insured value. So I'm going to throw out a pro tip for everybody out there listening on today's episode that's actually going to save you money, because I'm all about that, right?
Come on.
Lefty, I think we've said this before, but if not, I'll just say it again. Did you know that if you were to go in and have you ever played this game? Go in and put in the max insured value for your submission on every card. So it'd be $500, $500, $500, $500. Go ahead and do that. And then before you actually check out, it will give you what your cost is for that. And it'll say you are on the next step. You are about to agree to pay X amount. And you look at the shipping number.
Mm-hmm.
So then go back, backspace in your browser or whatever, not backspace, hit the back button in your browser or whatever, or the prompt on psacard.com. Then actually look at, okay, if this card gets a 10, it's actually more likely now that we're going to get 9s. So put in a max insured value of what a 9 would get. So like $20. So change 500 to like 20 for your submission. The shipping cost will decrease when you do that. And so that's what I want everybody to do. Saving money.
By switching to Geico.
Geico.
By switching to no off season.
Save money by switching to no off season.
I'm in on that.
Lefty looks more like the caveman than I do right now, just because he's got the facial hair.
My exaggerated features.
No exaggerated features from you, just the facial hair. Lefty, McKee, great stuff on today's show. Is there anything we missed or anything you want to talk about?
No, man, I got it all out.
Great job. Everybody, we're going to go record the premium pod. So thanks to all the premium members who got their questions in before Wednesday, November 27th at 2:24 p.m. Central Time. Anyone who gets their questions in after that will be in the next week. Happy Thanksgiving. We're still going to be dropping the premium pod on Friday. So get ready for that. Everybody, see you soon. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now and get a free 30-day trial. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.